Welcome to Building Wealthy Habits podcast. Now, this features content and conversations with me, Randy Barkley, Jeremiah Lee, along with Laura Lee. On this podcast, we share financial advice from a team of certified financial planners, including a California licensed attorney, an MBA professional with collective experience of over 40 years.
On this episode of Building Wealthy Habits, Randy, Laura, and myself are talking about cybersecurity. It's kind of a scary topic, but we try and break it down to some of the best practices of, what do you do with passwords, be careful of emails, and just kind of how you protect yourself in this world, this ever-evolving world, to stay vigilant. So we hope you receive some value. This episode is for anyone, really, of all ages, who wants to make sure that their online presence is safe and secure. We hope you enjoy the episode.
Well, good morning. Although our listeners, they may not be tuning in during the morning, but we record in the morning. And
it could be a late night. We could change the energy. But for us, it's an exciting morning. We're kicking things off.
I mean, the radio program obviously goes out in the morning. So that's 9 a.m. on Saturday mornings. But podcast, I can listen to anytime. But let's start out. Let's talk about what's in our cup this morning.
Well, I've got caffeine in my cup. But look at this, Papa Bear. I wonder who gave me that cup.
Do I get credit for that, or was it one of your other?
No, you gave it to me.
Was it one of your other favorite children?
So
it was
coffee.
Me.
It was.
You've got coffee. I've got, I guess, branded, but I have green tea in here.
And I've got the mug, so I could do this one.
You could do the other tricord. Yep. Way to be. Yes, a bumper sticker
Laura,
for tricord.
Your mug was lovely. What is your mug?
I was going to say, don't just pass over my mug. This is not just any mug. Okay, so my mug is handmade by a fabulous designer in LA. His name is Chris Earl. It's called Earl Designs. And he actually does custom furniture. Gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. But he also has a line of ceramics. So it's like this kind of navy blue ink. If you come to my office, I will share a cup of coffee with you in these beautiful mugs. The other thing is, for our listeners who may or may not know, I used to work in the specialty coffee industry.
You did.
And I was a part of a team that would put on an event once a year called the World Coffee Roasting Championship. Quite a few times, a roaster from a company called Onyx would win for the U.S. And so Onyx is based in Northwest Arkansas. I have a subscription to their coffee, just like beautiful packaging. But they talk about
that's an African name, right? I mean, what is that? What is that? Indonesian?
The coffee is from Burundi, and then they give you the flavor notes. But it's always sustainably sourced. They pay fair prices, and they just give a lot of information about the coffee. So for those who,
just for our viewers, Laura is a coffee snob.
I am officially,
and has fantastic coffee on a regular basis. So take your pick. Please
come visit. I will probably be brewing a wonderful cup of coffee, but it goes hand in hand with my life, So coffee is.
I'm not sure what that means. What does it goes hand in hand?
It's a necessary evil.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The caffeine, I think maybe they're saying like you're curating with fine things around your life, but maybe it's just
having
the caffeine.
4 children to keep you awake.
There you go. Right. See, you guys all got the meaning right there. Yes to all of that.
Yes to all of it.
Yes to all of that. All right, let's dive into this morning's topic. We wanted to have some extra coffee because it's kind of a maybe not a serious topic, but one that's coming up.
Stay alert.
It's more. Yes, stay alert. Thank you. We're talking about cybersecurity today. And, all of us included, our clients, they're experiencing fraud online to varying degrees. It's becoming more regular. It's becoming more common. And yet we don't want to just succumb to, okay, probably my information is going to be stolen at one point. What can we do to be on the offensive to help protect ourselves? And so we're going to talk about some facts, some information, and just some helpful tips.
Right.
But to start us off, to talk about how important this is, Dad, I think you were the one that introduced us to this article this last week, published by the Wall Street Journal. Do you want to kick us off? What was that about?
Well, the article is about a 75-year-old man that I think he's someplace in the Midwest. His name is really not relevant to this situation, but he was contacted by email, and somehow the perpetrator got him over to Instagram, and they got a
WhatsApp. It was on WhatsApp.
WhatsApp. So there you go. But got in this constant communication, and next thing you know, apparently he was a lonely man, and there started to be this connection emotionally. And long story short, as you read the article, in fact, the newspaper will give you a connection if you read it. It shows the text. It shows the communication between this man and the supposedly love interest.
Yeah, it was a female that had supposedly come over to the U.S. She was from China. She claimed to be very wealthy because of her uncle or some relationship there that she worked for her uncle. She lived in San Francisco, but essentially started the relationship out of like an emotional side of romantic relationship, and really found this gentleman who was in his 70s and was fairly lonely.
Yeah, and it's sad. And the end result is this man over time started giving her money, and at the end of the story, she literally, and I don't think it was a she, I think it was a man on the other end of that, on that phishing, that whole scam, but got over $700,000 from this individual. Basically, he emptied out his retirement accounts and gave it all to her.
Not even, right? Like, so I love the point that I think was so enlightening for me is that most of these scams are by professional organizations, and they actually there's some women trafficking issues going on there as well, because they might have females pose for pictures or participate so that they gain credibility with the person that they're preying upon. And so this person, even towards the end of the story, they still believed in this relationship with this woman, and and she really probably never really existed.
And I think the scary part that we see, and it goes from an article, which you read in the news, it feels like that's out there. But we've had a number of individuals, we've either clients or often parents of clients, that we've had to help pick up the pieces after something will happen. Right. They get tricked for some way. There's a number of these different scams that will trick someone and deceive them. And they'll send money, whether it's everything, like in this instance, it was kind of extreme, that it was his entire life savings. But others, they'll send meaningful amounts of money. And what do you do now? We had one client with, mother-in-law is very well set up, no big deal. Then all of a sudden, mother-in-law needs all sorts of help from us because she no longer has any resources. And it's really difficult. And so part of what we're talking today is taking this story that was, just in the Wall Street Journal, and then some of the examples that we've experienced and how to walk through clients.
We've had professionally amongst our clients and friends and their relatives and such as that. It seems like it centers back. We get, unfortunately, oftentimes we get it before or after the event has occurred.
After, that's right.
Right.
And you think this could never happen to me. I would never transfer that much money. It's crazy. But when you read somebody's story like this, and that's why we'll put a link to the article, because it really is fascinating. And we're all subject to becoming emotionally involved in a situation that then creates a vulnerability. And this gentleman in the article, and then we can move on, he not only transferred his entire life savings, but once he realized that he couldn't have access to those funds and they were just requiring more funds for him to have access, he took a home equity line of credit on his home. So he didn't just transfer all his savings. He went into debt to try to gain back his savings. And so it's just terrible situation.
It's a scary world. There's horrible people out there preying on folks. And like you said today, Laura, we're going to talk about some tips, some best practices, some things that we've implemented as a business, but more so that we've talked with clients about to implement in their personal lives to make things better. And the first one, I'll just kick it off, is passwords. Man, welcome 123 password. 234.
Passwords are the bane of all of our existence. I mean, everybody I talk to hates passwords, and the older you get, the more it is that they just don't know, right? I mean, they're just, how do you keep track of it? How do you keep something that's unusual?
Right.
So again, going back to your comment, everybody uses they kind of get into a commonality and they start using it so they can remember the stupid password.
It's very common to come up with 1, 2, 3, a handful of passwords that you can remember, and you repeat. You use them on multiple sites. And this is one of the cautions that we put out there. It is not ideal to repeat the same password on more than one website.
It's dangerous. It's dangerous.
It's dangerous. And then you think, well, okay, fine, but how am I supposed to remember
all these
30 different passwords or whatever?
And so often we'll have clients that move to the little black book, right? The little paper book, and they'll write them down, and that works initially. But a lot of these websites, every 6 months, every year, so they want you to redo it, or you have to do a reset for your password because you forgot it at one point and have a new one. So if you have that little black book, within 6 months to a year, it's going to have all sorts of scribbles and write in the margins and new passwords.
Or if you lose the black book, right?
Yeah, you lose the black book. And so what many of our clients have moved to is password managers. And some of these are integrated in your browsers, Chrome or Safari. They'll have some of those internally. And some people are comfortable with that. A lot of people aren't. What a lot of our clients move to is an actual a third-party resource that you pay for. Maybe it's $10 a year.
It's not that expensive either, right? I mean, we've used password managers, and they're just not. And you consider about what they do and how easy they are to use once you understand what they are and how they use, how you implement them.
Yeah.
Right. And let's talk about a couple. There's 1Password, NordPass is another popular, Dashlane. There's several out there. So look at which ones are more highly rated than others. But a password manager will help store these passwords as well as create quote unquote strong passwords.
Yeah. And that's the big part of it. When you put in a website, you have to put a password in. It doesn't just put in, password 1, 2, 3. It puts in this, string of gobbledygook that no one would ever remember or guess, but it remembers it for you. And for example, 1Password, you remember your 1Password, your master password. That's all you have to remember. And it has every other website. It has a new one. The thing I like about 1Password specifically is if I'm on my computer, it has my passwords. If I'm on my phone, 1Password is also on my phone. So when I go to a bank website or some other website and I'm not on my computer, it still, will use my facial recognition or some sort of other bio login, and then it will remember that password for my bank or something else. So I don't have to be close to my black book. I don't have to worry about forgetting my passwords.
And you can be mobile. You can be anywhere in the world and get access to this, right?
Yeah.
Right. So you could be on your tablet, your cell phone, your computer. And just for definition for our listeners, a strong password is one that is alphanumeric. So it has both letters and numbers. It's at least 8 characters long. It's going to have upper and lowercase and a variety of different characters. And so, you might credit yourself and say, well, yeah, I've got a couple of those passwords that I use. They fit all that criteria. That's great. But haven't we all logged in and said, time to reset your password? Time to have a new password, and we can only get so, let's say, creative so many times.
And when that happens is when you're middle of something and you're going, oh my goodness, now I got to go with the password, and you got to stop what you're doing. And it's just, so if you have a password manager and you learn how to use it appropriately, you literally hit a button and it's done. And it automatically takes care of all that for you.
But let's talk about annoying. It's annoying when you have to reset your password, right? When you're in the middle of a project or you're under a time crunch. But let's talk about 2-factor authentication.
That's a big techie word. And so 2-factor authentication, when you say that, is having 2 different things logging you in, whether it's a facial recognition and a password. I think they described it as something you are, face, thumbprint, something a password, or something you have, which could be your cell phone or a second or third device is often how they consider. But you have to have 2 of them in order to log in. So for me, I have all of my 2-factor authentication turned on everything. And so the only way to get into any of my things is for me to put in a password, which I use a password manager. But then my phone gets a buzz a few seconds later, and I have to put in that 6-digit code, whatever they've just sent me. Talk about a pain. It is a pain. On the flip side, I would much rather that than someone else being trying to hack or get into one of my accounts without me knowing it. Because even if someone's trying to get in and guessed my password for some reason, I'm still going to get a buzz on my phone and say, "What's this? I'm not logging in."
It's like your credit card companies now. They will send out a notification if all of a sudden there's a purchase of a wash machine in San Antonio, Texas, and going, "I haven't been to San Antonio, Texas ever." And so, but it's nice that they have that authentication. So what you're saying is basically the same thing, but you have to take personal responsibility for it. And for older clients, I'm not sure what that age bracket is, but it seems to be that when people get older, their eyesight gets a little bit harder, a little bit more, they're more, a little more dim. And it's the nimbleness, hitting the right button is really, it's not easy. So those are issues. So issues that.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great example that you bring up, because oftentimes the 2-factor includes where they will give you like a pictograph, right? So it's different images, right, that are similar all next to each other. And then you have to only select the boxes. And that's trying to obviously identify some sort of robotic malware or something like that. So and just for statistics, I found this one. In fact, our team here has been going through internal cybersecurity training, so this was very top of mind. But a statistic is over 14 billion data records are lost or stolen since 2013.
I just got a letter from a hospital that we've had for a number of years, and they had a data breach.
Yeah.
So they've sent out a letter to me and say, listen, we want you to go onto this line and we will pay for any of the security issues that you have to go through. And of course, they apologize profusely, but it is really important. So therefore, there are 3 credit bureaus, right? So people get all their security, all their information. Well, those 3 credit bureaus are the ones that need to be monitored to see what's going on with them. And most people don't do that.
So that's a great point. You get one of those letters in the mail, you're like, is this junk mail? Like, what do you do with it? Don't throw it away. Don't throw it away. Right. Hang on to it, because they will oftentimes provide you with a paid for credit report or some sort of security monitoring system for a certain period of time. Take advantage of those things.
And those are free, rather than buying for the 4 service companies that are out there advertise a lot. These services here are provided free, and oftentimes they are very effective. But more importantly, it allows you to look at your statements from your credit bureaus. And if there's activity on there, you're going, no, I never lived in this particular address. Then you can call the credit bureaus. You can clean up your credit, so to speak. That's important.
And that credit monitoring, it is expensive. You can hire these third parties to monitor your credit. I don't feel that most clients need a up to the minute credit score, or every week, what's my credit score? But having something notifying you to say, hey, did you apply for a new credit card? Did you apply for a new home loan? Yep. We have a lot of clients that they're past the ages where they expect to be opening new credit cards and new home loans. They're established in their home, they're established in their credit cards. And so for them, even if they're paying for a credit monitor that's in essence doing nothing, it would be real easy to have something pop up to say, oh, that's not me, that's a fraud item, and deal with it before there's meaningful debt, before you're down the road, and to nip it in the bud is a good protection. So those credit monitoring agencies, we don't have a specific one that we recommend because there's a few out there. But they are useful. They are useful to pay a fee to make sure you're not going down a road you don't intend to.
Right.
Yeah. Years ago, I wrote an article and I sent it out that it would be particularly for older clients, retired. Going back to your comment, Jeremiah, they're not borrowing, they're not using credit anymore. It's just the money they have in their accounts and such.
Yep.
To freeze their credit. And I had some clients do that. They froze their credit, but then they had to unlock. And that was kind of a nuisance. I got some negative feedback. I had one client says it was really simple, really easy. Another client, it was really frustrating for it. So I'm always a little careful not to make that specific recommendation to everybody.
Explain a little bit more. So essentially there's some sort of data breach that you're informed of, and as you're sorting it out, you freeze your credit. So what does that do essentially?
Well, you contact the credit bureaus, and the information that any borrower, whether it be legitimate or fraudulent, they're going to want that information from your credit score, your credit information. When you freeze your credit, it basically says, no, we're not going to borrow any money. We're not going to open a credit card. We're not going to do anything. And so what it does is any attempt to get to your credit information is frozen. And the only person that can open up, it's like going back to that password. You have a very specific password that you can use to open that back up again. And the credit bureaus will freeze it. So that means that somebody's trying to get into your credit, they're going to be blocked because they can't get to that information.
Do you have to pay to do that?
There are some services that do, but most credit bureaus will allow you to block. and there's a minor cost to unblock it, but it's not with a click of a button.
No,
it's a little bit more complex than that.
Right, and the concern is someone who might have your home address, they might have your name, they might even have your social security number. You're trying to stop them from getting in there, and so the credit bureaus, they're not just looking for you to tell me what's your date of birth. Perfect, we'll unlock it. They're saying, what is that specific code we gave you 10 years ago? Remember that code we gave you 10 years ago? And for some clients, I don't remember where that code went. And it's really tough to get it unlocked.
So you mentioned knowing your home address. So it's the summertime, and many of us are away from home. And we might be logging in on our phone, on our laptop, on our tablet, in places that we've never visited before, or frankly, just any sort of public location. And this is something that kind of came to mind for me recently, somebody who loves to work from a coffee shop. Right, exactly. We have to be very careful about the internet connection that we are using. If you are using a public internet connection, you are much more susceptible to a fraudulent attack.
Yep.
And the way that most people would want to block that, in most iPhones, computers, they have these, they're called virtual private networks, VPNs. And this is kind of the 2.0 in sophistication of being able to do this, but it's already on your phone. It's already on your computer for most everybody. And it's simply a matter of turning that on. So like an iPhone, for example, has a virtual private network built into it, but you have to go into your settings and actually turn that on. And what that does is it almost think like a tunnel through a mountain. Instead of you just broadcasting your data, out into the public market, it actually sets up this private tunnel just for you, and your data goes through that. So it protects anyone else from seeing your data. But it's something that most people don't do. They just walk in and, I hopped on the Starbucks Wi-Fi because I needed to work and do a thing. Be careful. There could be someone else in the Starbucks.
Open up a website that has all your stuff on it. Somebody could be stealing all that information within seconds, and it's done.
While you're sitting there enjoying your cup of coffee, trying to get work done. So VPN, personal hotspot, but not using, we would caution against using public internet Wi-Fi. So as much as you can avoid that as possible.
And I think the common pushback from clients that we work with, obviously most of the clients I work with are older, they're more mature. They get so frustrated with the changes going on continually, the technology updates and everything else. It's like, please just slow down. But the problem is the technology is moving so fast, right? All the things that are moving. You have to either be associated with somebody that helps you through that process, or you have to become self-educated, so to speak.
So Randy, that is a great comment about someone feeling behind. There's so many changes. And I think it's part of it's a struggle, but part of it is actually a really good opportunity, not just to feel it's moving so fast, being frustrated by it, but reaching out to the resources in your life. And I think the key resource there is family. Whenever I can't figure something out on my phone, I hand it to my 11-year-old, right? And she can figure it out much faster than I can.
Okay, wait a second. Not totally.
She is great with settings and things. So I think there's an element there. If someone is not sure how to do this or not confident that what they've done on their phone it's probably a moment of humility, but it's also a moment to invite some relationship with other members of your family, whether it's a kid, Generation X, from an older person, or whether it's even grandkids, to say, hey, I think my phone is supposed to be able to do this. I'm not sure how to do it. Can you show me? Can you help me figure this out? And
family, close friend, somebody who has somebody who's in the know. Yeah.
Right. And hopefully it can come off more as a uniting, let's do this together, versus I can't figure this out, just take care of it. But it's that constant curiosity, or that constant willingness to be vigilant and seek help. And that help, I think, generally could come from a younger generation or a good friend, and to keep you up to date and help you feel comfortable that, hey, I heard this thing about a VPN. Can you show me how to do that on my phone? Or I heard this thing about, whatever. It's a great moment.
Yeah. And I think the technology is creating loneliness, because people feel more and more isolated because they're not, they can't just pick up the phone and talk to somebody anymore. It comes over the internet. So I think it creates a higher degree of fear and phishing, getting an email. I mean, it's malicious malware. I mean, things that can happen in a second, right?
Yeah, and in just the last minute we have, I want to kind of define those things for our listeners. So phishing attempts are people that typically show up in your email, and they're trying to look like a legitimate email, but in fact it's a phishing attempt to try to download some sort of malware or malicious software onto your computer. And so just some things to look for before you click, right? That's my recommendation for today. So you look for typos. you look for the email address, the actual source that it comes from, because it might show up as the sender, as a name that you're familiar with, but look at the actual email address that it comes from. You want to check the links. So you can scroll over a link and it will show you what the link is before you actually click on it.
Scroll now. You just got advanced for me. How do you scroll? What do you mean? What are you talking about?
Hover.
Cursor
might be
hover.
Oh,
Hover
okay.
is a good word.
Okay.
Hover over the link before you click. Remember, think before you click. Hover over a link before you click. Look at the email address. Look for typos. Those are just some common factors that you can identify. A phishing attempt that will lead to malware.
And often
you mean that email I got for somebody who's going to give me some money from Wells Fargo, that payment that was coming in, is not true?
I know.
That's right. And often they're trying to get you to click. So they're a little scary. It's either the carrot, hey, there's some money here, click on this to come get it, which you're not expecting. Or it's the other way. You owe this money. This is an outstanding bill. You've not paid it. We're going to send you to collections, and you've never heard of the bill, right?
Yep.
And those are the ones that you have to do some investigation to not just click and respond to them, but think, have I ever worked with this company? Is there any way that this could be real?
Right.
We have an IT company that tests us on a regular basis, and I did not catch it. So it looked like it came from a colleague of ours and said, hey, here's an updated org chart. Now, we hadn't been talking about an org chart, but I thought, oh, that's kind of interesting. PDF, clicked on it, and then it gave me this screen like, you got the wrong answer.
Caught ya.
Yeah.
So always stay on your toes. So anyways, I hope there was some useful content out there for our listeners today. We really appreciate you listening along. Be careful, stay alert, drink your coffee or tea.
I like that.
Until next week, folks, may you grow in wisdom and knowledge. Thank you for listening.
We have a few more things to let you know about before we go. Podcast reviews really help us to serve more people and get this information into the hands of the people who need it. Please leave us a review. Even if it's not 5 stars, we welcome the feedback.
And we invite you to let us know what topics you would like to hear more about, or what would benefit the people in your life who you're closest to. We have more resources online. Those resources are designed to help you share this great information easily with people in your life. To access those resources, please visit tricordeadvisors.com.
Often we hear from clients that they wish they had talked to us sooner. If that's you, we'd be thrilled to see how financial planning can benefit your life. Email us at contact@tricordeadvisors.com or simply click on the link in the show notes.
This show was produced by Graham Gardner at Model FA. Find out more about how to create a podcast for your financial planning business by visiting modelfa.com. We love creating content that's useful, resourceful, and maybe even a little entertaining. We want to make this mega universe of financial topics and advice applicable and helpful to your life.
Remember, at Tricord Advisors, we are your future's best ally.